Hello, everybody. I am your host, Trina Gunzel, and welcome to the Legacy and Legends podcast. I'm really excited about this episode today because I am going to feature this as part of the Light the World series that I'm doing. And I wanted to share something that I actually have not really shared with you before and in depth. It's actually my personal story of how I became an entrepreneur and some of the challenges I went through to get where I am today. And I hope that this message will bring you in. Maybe you'll want to grab a cup of hot cocoa or tea and cuddle up and listen to a story of a challenge that turned into a big victory and all of the pivotal moments in between. So maybe you are somebody who is in the world of entrepreneurship by choice, or maybe it's by chance. My name is Trina Gunzel, and I did not come from money. My family owned a real estate appraisal business when I was younger, and I knew that I was loved, and I knew that I had a lot to contribute because my parents believed in me. They allowed me to try different things, anything I wanted to try, from softball to volleyball, Girl Scouts, if I wanted to try out for, you know, anything. They just let me try it. Dance. There's a lot of fun stories and memories that I have growing up. But the thing is, even though my family wasn't rich, I never felt like that because we were so full of love and we had faith that moved mountains. And so our house was the place where my friends always wanted to come. And I didn't realize till later in life, I would always get kind of sad, like, why can't I go to their house? And I wanted to spend the night at a friend's. And our house was the place where I had two parents at home. My parents were married. There was always food. We had games. We had a big house, so there was a place for people to hang out. And my dad and mom loved hosting parties. We would very often have people over, like groups of 40 people, where that was a typical weekend at my house where we would cook. My dad was always grilling. I can remember spending hours with my sister, like shucking corn for parties and, washing dishes because we didn't use paper plates. Everything was hand washed and for everybody. We had a little family farm. My dad was a great gardener, so he'd grow lots of vegetables, and that also helped supplement the food budget, with 6 kids. And then my brothers would raise a steer or a hog, for the fair that they would sell, and that's how they actually earned their first cars. I remember spending hours in the summer outside playing with our neighbors and our cousins while my parents were working because my mom would do all the typing for my dad in the appraisal business, and he was the appraiser, real estate appraiser. So sometimes we'd get to go with him to measure the houses, or we'd pack a picnic lunch and we'd spend time together traveling. And so many of our memories, it was a really wholesome childhood. We'd spend wood cutting, we had bonfires, we would have game nights, we had friends over, we would have family dinners, we would do potlucks. We just had a lot of family celebrations and a lot of cultural things and traditions around food and family and company. And my dad I just always remember, he was always introducing us to new people. And we had so many adopted grandparents growing up. And it wasn't until my dad was in a tractor accident when I was 13 that things really changed for us and our family. Because before that time, my parents' business was really successful. It was growing. My aunt and uncle and cousins moved out from Michigan. I was able to help work at their little family restaurant too. I was always answering the phone, like Cavalier Appraisal Service, since I was a little kid. Going to the events, networking, all those things are just, I felt like in my blood, ingrained in me because I grew up in that family business. After my dad's accident, though, there was literally somebody published something in the paper that my dad died. And even though it wasn't my dad, it was someone with the same name in a different city. That really impacted his business because people thought he wasn't there. And it took him several months to even be well enough because of all the damage to his body that he was able to work again. And during that time, my mom actually ended up getting hired at the school district. And that was a big thing because before that, my parents always worked from home. So for my sister and I, we always had both of our parents there. It shifted the dynamics a little bit for my younger siblings when my mom was at the school full time, because as she advanced in her career there, she actually became the business manager for the school district. And that was a full-time job. Now, while she would still help my dad, and as he got better, she would do what she could to still help in the business. It wasn't like before when they were always there and there was always somebody at home. So for me, as I was growing up, I was kind of put on that career path because I got good grades in school. I was somebody who loved to help people. I was somebody who was, a model student. I was a friend to everybody. We lived in a small town. And so in my high school class of 120 kids, I didn't want to only have one or two friends. I wanted to be friends with everybody because I thought there aren't even enough people here, to limit myself. Why wouldn't I be friends with everybody? And so I've still carried that through today. I have friends literally all over the world because I value relationships and I genuinely care about people. And so part of my journey and story was that I kind of got on that track where, because I liked lots of different things, I was pushed into the field of education. And so when I decided I wanted to go to college, my parents, one of the best things they ever told me was, we love you and we will encourage you and we will send you, food, but we can't pay for you to go to college. If you want to do that, you're going to have to figure that out on your own. And so that really pushed me into like this provider mode for, at a very young age. I literally made a house payment once for my parents at age 15 that my dad paid me back. But I just remember as a kid, I was saving. I was very thrifty. I always had a savings account. I always had money to buy the clothes I wanted, and I would pay gifts for my family and friends. I was the kind of kid, anytime I would visit from college or had some extra money, I was always trying to put money in my dad's wallet, just to kind of help, because we had 6 kids, right? And my parents worked really hard and we had an amazing life. But we didn't have things like fancy new cars, right? I grew up in hand-me-downs. And while I was super grateful for those clothes for my cousins, I wanted to be able to buy the kind of clothes I wanted. I wanted to be able to develop my style. There were certain things I wanted that I felt like I couldn't have, and that really frustrated me sometimes. And so by working on the side, that's when I say I've always worked since I was 10. I literally was doing something, whether it was, man, I would get hired by my neighbors to water their plants. I would get hired for babysitting. I would get hired to work. I literally did a whole back to school celebration, for the school when I was literally 15 years old. I worked as a bus girl. As soon as I was old enough, I got hired to be a waitress. And then I worked all the way through. How I was able to go to college was I earned scholarships. Now, it wasn't easy. Okay, they don't just give you money to go to college. I had to get excellent grades, and I played sports. And beyond that, I had tons of service projects and volunteer things that I would be a part of. And then I had to go to lots and lots of interviews and write lots and lots of essays to even be considered for scholarships. Okay, so for me to go from being the first one in my family to go to college and actually finish a degree, that was a big deal. And by doing that, it showed my other siblings what was possible. After that, I had other siblings who graduated from college and cousins, and it just kind of opened the door like, hey, we can do this. And so for me, I was excited to go to college by earning those scholarships. It didn't stop there. When I was in college, I continued to earn scholarships by helping people. I would literally set up workshops and train people on how to be successful in college and communication and time management. And then even after I graduated college and had my first teaching degrees, I earned scholarships to get my master's because I was always contributing in a bigger way. And when you will publish your results and share them with other people, you will get recognized for that, because not everybody does that. And I didn't understand how unique that was. A lot of people kind of want to keep their results to themselves, but I was like, hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you want to be a part of it? And I wanted to share that so more people could get results. So I got known in the field of education as one of the best teaching practices trainers. And I've actually helped 2 different state departments create curriculum. I've helped advance best teaching practices, and I really know how to help get best results, whether it's one-to-one teaching or coaching or teaching to many in groups and workshops of 80, 200. My husband and I have now worked together over the last 25 years. I was doing consulting, and we were also running little workshops, doing training, having people over. I went through and I loved teaching. I was a very highly sought after bilingual education teacher. I'm fluent in Spanish and English. And I really got into that field because I saw early on that children were not communicating with their parents. And one of my English as a second language certifications, I was assigned to a family to teach them English, and they spoke Vietnamese. And I noticed that the daughter would not communicate with her dad what was happening at school. And so he used to be very high up. He had an amazing career back in his country. But here in the States, he was barely getting by on minimum wage. And his daughter was not communicating if she was getting in trouble at school. If things were not going well with her grades, she would say it was all well. That language was being lost. And the dad was no longer able to parent the way he wanted to parent because of the communication gap. So I really saw that part of this piece of helping families was in communication, was keeping those relationships strong, was helping those traditions be passed on. And so we did lots of like cultural nights, and I got into adult education and training. And My husband and I, he was a police officer in Oregon at the time, and I got my first teaching job up there. We decided to move back to Arizona after he was having some health issues. And for the first time in years, he actually felt better. So we said, you know what, we're going to move back to Arizona. We were deciding what we wanted to do from there. I was hired as a district coordinator, as the ES English as a second language coordinator, the first ever hired in Payson Unified School District. And that was back to our hometown where we met when we were 15. So it was pretty exciting. I wasn't really sure how that was going to go. It was a very intense caseload. I had 120 students at 3 schools that I had to teach and help be responsible for them getting fluent in English in less than a year. So then I created a full-time immersion classroom of pre-K through 5th graders, and I had an assistant, and I would help the other kids at the other schools 1 or 2 hours a day while teaching the full-time class, when the kids were at PE or their specialty classes. And it was a lot. It was a lot to manage. I lived out of my vehicle with like a rolly cart where I would go teach at all the schools. And, it was always kind of pushing that envelope. I had to create all of the paperwork and get everything in that program into alignment with the requirements for federal funding and the state structured English immersion laws. So I became somebody who was an influencer and an authority in teaching English as a second language and developing curriculum for fast results at the State Department level. Okay. I worked doing that for over 7 years. Even after we moved, they would fly me back to do trainings. I literally certified half the state myself in structured English immersion and helped write curriculum. And I love that, being able to be part of that bigger ripple effect where literally I got to help thousands and thousands. And the reach just continues today because by training teachers in best teaching practices, students got results fast. And I was like, man, if I can do this with kids, can I pull this into adult education? And we did. And my husband did as well. We opened a photography studio that we ran together. We got amazing results for our clients. Then my husband started teaching and coaching and training and doing classes for photography. I was also teaching English at the time, and then started getting people requesting from us, how did you start your business? How did you do this? How did you take a business from scratch to over 6 figures and become this, iconic brand in the town where we would literally give scholarships at graduation. And we have people who still request their portraits because we kept them for life digitally. So raising the caliber wherever we go, anywhere we go. I was raised to believe make everywhere you go better because you're there. So we've really tried to do that. Okay. For us, when our son was 4, this baby boy who we dreamed of for years, we couldn't get pregnant. I had several miscarriages that were very traumatic. We finally had our baby boy, and our life was perfect. I mean, literally, we lived 12 minutes from the lake. We had an amazing bass boat. We had this gorgeous studio. Everything was just like this fairy tale life that you dream about. We were having so much fun. And then our son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I will never forget the day that I look over and I see my little boy slumped down the sofa. And I'm like, something is really wrong. We decided to take him to the doctor, and he said he has type 1 diabetes. He's going into diabetic ketoacidosis. And for us, we're like, we don't know what that means. What are you talking about? His blood sugar was over 900 and he went into a coma. And over the next 5 days, we had to be in an intensive unit at a major hospital in the valley. And we were devastated. We knew that our life no longer could be that 9-to-5 bubble life. And even though we started a business together and we were running that, the type of work we did was too time intensive. How could we go photograph high-end weddings and be gone all day if our son needed us, checking his blood sugar every hour, and we had to calculate carbs and give insulin shots, and it just changed our life. So we had a choice there. We were going to choose to either thrive and make this the best thing that ever happened to us, or we were going to get divorced, let this crush us, and fail. And it was one of those moments where it was like, we didn't ask for that. And I wonder how many of you who are listening to this today, maybe you're going through something right now. Maybe you have something that has recently happened to you that you're feeling really lost. Maybe you're in a space where you just got fired. Maybe you're in a space where something happened to one of your kids and you're just frustrated and sad inside because you don't know how to fix it. I can speak from a place of vulnerability and I know exactly how that feels. I know exactly how it feels when you're in a place of feeling like you could do anything and you have these amazing results, and now you have a problem you can't fix and you can't solve. Well, my husband and I went on this path and this epic quest to heal from our own grief, to see if we could find a cure, to see what we could do to make our life with our son be a little bit brighter. How could we turn this challenge into the greatest gift? And of course, when you think There's no way, and it's going to be so hard. We were blessed with the biggest miracle ever, our little girl. When I had decided in that hospital bed, there is no way I can have too many or any more kids. This is too hard. I didn't know I was already pregnant with our daughter. And I'm so grateful every day because she's such a bright blessing in our life. And she's so fun and assertive and creative and everything I always wanted and never knew I could have in a daughter. And it just, my kids are both amazing. They're incredible human beings. They are also raised in a home with faith and love. But it was also a lot of challenges, right? Because for my husband and I, we are both high achievers and we are both people that are the first kids and we're used to fixing things and getting things right. And now we felt like we had this bigger than life problem we couldn't solve. And so we went on this quest literally to see and read books and get certified. I have so many piles of certifications and degrees at this point where it's just like, what else can we learn? What else can we know to make this better? And one of the things in our photography studio that made it just go through the roof, if you guys are listening to this for like a glimmer of why it's important to share your story, when we shared what was happening with our son, when we shared how expensive it was, when we shared how hard it was and the changes, people rallied around us. When you go through hard things, you find out who your real friends and family are. And those who wanted to help, we had people donate a bike for him for Christmas. We had people donate for Make-A-Wish trips. We had people who helped us get out to studies. And that's another thing. If you feel like there's no way, we decided to get into helping, for research, for cure out at Stanford. And it was like we had to fly out there every month for these studies. All the technology he wears for type 1 diabetes today, he was part of the studies to advance that technology because we committed 8 years of our life and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of our own money to be involved in these studies and to get there. But I recognize, what if there's somebody out there who can't afford to fly? What if we can't go every month? And this is crazy expensive. So I actually found this thing. It was called Angel Flights. There was a program where they would fly people out for studies through Southwest. And it was really interesting. There's different pilots who would do this, different airlines, okay, where they would network in this partnership. So I found out. So for a while, that was also a way where we were able to fly out for studies. But we did make a choice at one point and said, this is just too expensive. We need to wrap our life around this and change. So we moved out to Missouri. And that's really when we got into the studies at St. Louis Children's Hospital, when I wrote my first book, Can't Diabetes, The Highs and Lows of Raising a Type 1 Diabetic Child. This is actually used by endocrinologists to train their teams at hospitals, people who want to know the behind the scenes. And this has been said, this book is the only book that addresses the grief side of type 1 diabetes. There's real things that people can access. They can download it right away when they're in the hospital on Kindle and get on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. But this book has made a huge impact because it's my story. It's that book that helped me heal from grief and be able to connect with other moms and parents who are going through challenges, right? That kicked off that time where we were like, well, if we're not going to work a 9-to-5 life, what else can we do? So we got into life transformation coaching, where we would help people work through grief, trauma, create dream sculpt, be able to do things to shift and get perspective shifts and really work through the core work they need to be able to embrace whatever challenge comes their way and pivot and turn it into a blessing. Okay. And after years and years of coaching in that realm, we decided that we wanted to embed this into a business building program. And so for us, because people kept asking, because people wanted to know, how did you start your own business? How did you travel full time with your kids for 3 years? What kinds of things do you do that got those results? We decided to video record all of it. After having all of our results from clients for years, we decided to record the whole program. So it was fully automated, and now people can access it anywhere in the world. They can start their business, go from startup to over 6 figures in less than a year if they choose that option, right? They can be up and rolling in 6 weeks. And it was all the step-by-step pieces, including the parts of the story that have to be told so people connect with you on a deeper level, okay? One of the biggest things I get told from people is, you are so genuine. You really care. And I do, because I speak from the heart. I really care about people. When I ask or send someone a message, it's not because I have to. It's because they were on my mind. And so I listen to the Spirit. I want to reach out. I want to be that light, okay, in the world, like Jesus is for all of us, so that people know they're not alone. And whether you believe in God or higher power or wherever you are in that journey, I want you to know that your story matters. You are here for a reason and you are not alone. I have to share this because my son Wyatt, I told you about, right? He was 4 when he was diagnosed. He's now 18 and he's serving a mission in Washington, D.C. And the other day we get to talk to him once a week. And he was saying that there's so many people that need help. And a lot of people in the suits and ties, they just go by and kind of brush them off and they don't want to hear about the gospel. And, he's trying to find his own way to touch and reach people. And they were holding these light the world signs and he decided to sing and he just started singing Christmas carols and it would just echo down the subway. And it was a beautiful way to just share some light. And people started singing with him too. And then he was saying that there's all of these homeless people and they smell so bad and they're sitting there alone and they're dirty and some of them have all these sores. And he stopped and he was shaking their hands and talking to them and letting them know that they are seen and heard and just giving them this little light the world card. And he was crying and I was crying too, listening to him, because what if Jesus comes back like that? And he said, Mom, everybody is a child of God. And he's right. And I hope that if you are listening to this podcast today, that you will know you are seen and you are heard and you are valued and you have that light inside that is important. And maybe sometimes you have to dust off the cobwebs, or maybe you have to lift off whatever was making you feel down and notice those words people said to you or something that someone did to you. That isn't actually you. Maybe that is their take on it. Maybe that is their opinion or judgment, but the person that you are is full of light and love. And if you will focus more on doing the things that you love that help bring out the best in you and be willing to learn and be willing to grow and seek that knowledge for yourself, you're going to find that things start just creating momentum. They're going to get brighter. They're going to get lighter because you know who you are inside. When you feel that still small voice, when you wake up smiling, those times in your life when you've really felt that stillness and peace, that is you. When you look out and you know that you're capable of creating something and you put that intention and it happens, that's the real you. So I want to encourage you in this season, find a way that you can light the world right where you are. Is there somebody today that you can help? Is there somebody who's on your heart that maybe you can bring a meal to? Is there somebody you haven't talked to in a while that you could pick up the phone and call and let them know that you're thankful for them and what they mean to you? Is there something on your heart? Maybe it's a bigger project that you're excited about, that you could take some time today and dig in and give yourself that space to just step into that power, step into that light that is you and share it. Maybe it's a story. Maybe it's a little program you've been wanting to teach. Maybe it's a foundation you want to start. Maybe it's a book you want to write. Okay? All of those things can actually happen if you set the intention and just spend a little bit of time a day working on it. Our story is one of my husband wanted to be an entrepreneur his whole life and had different jobs that he was fired from. So he just decided, I'm never working for anybody else dumber than me ever. And he committed and he's never gone back. My story was I chose to be in the 9-to-5 life. I was raised as an entrepreneur. And so for me, it's that life of creating every day. As an entrepreneur, I get to create my world every day. If there's something I want to teach or I want to share or I want to coach, and I use my degrees every day because I know best teaching practices and I know how to communicate with people effectively in a way that they understand, that makes it feel safe, where they can trust that it's going to work out. If they're willing to do the steps, if you show up, I will help you create what you want. So having those ideas that feel bigger than yourself in this moment that you want to exist in the world, when we talk about sharing that light, that global light, that universal light, to me, that comes from Christ. That is a pure, sweet love that is for everybody, no matter where you are and what you believe, it is for you. So I really pray this season that this will touch your heart, that you will feel uplifted, that you will know you are not alone. And whenever you hear this, that you can really have that joy of Christmas in your heart every day. And if you're missing it, maybe your candle is a little bit dim right now. I want to just encourage you, do something each day. Breathe a little bit lighter. Spend some time in your own energy, really, without anyone else's influence, to be centered on who you are and what you are here for. And I want to invite you as well. You're going to see some gifts. We just have some gifts of the season you're going to find in the comments down below We have an amazing community that we created that you can be a part of. We just invite you to be a part of for real relationships, deeper connection. There's resources. You want to make new friends. You want to meet people in a family-friendly environment with everything from beekeeping to homeschooling, resources to help you in your business, fun and connection. It's an amazing place and space that we would love to invite you to. That's completely free. You're going to find that in the comments down below. I'm also going to include a few resources for you. I have the missionary cookbook. That is something that I'm super excited about. I created because my son wanted all these recipes from home and he wanted to take the family cookbook. And I said, well, how about if I type them up? So you have that as a resource, and there's some skills in there to help beginning people learning to cook. And maybe it would even be great for your kid at college. I'm going to put that in the comments down below as well. And maybe you're somebody who wants to share your story. Do you have a story right now that you're going through that's a challenge for you and you can't quite navigate the light? You can't kind of see the gift in it yet. And maybe you're somebody who does want to lead others. Maybe you want to speak. Maybe you want to train. Maybe you want to be established as an authority. I would love to offer you a one-to-one call with me. You can book to be scheduled on my podcast where I can interview you and hear that and coach you live to get you some support and resources and momentum going into this new chapter in your story. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I wanted to call this one Hoodies and Happiness intentionally, just so we could lay back and have a chill conversation and relax and just realize no matter where you are right now, you are already on the way to creating your own success story. If you will focus on spreading that light, focus on kindness, focus on the ways you can actually help people that bring out the best in you and make your heart smile. Thank you, everybody. I hope this episode blesses you as we're wrapping up this Light the World series, and I look forward to hearing from you. Please send me a message. I love to read your comments. If you want to send me a direct email, you can at trinagunzel.com, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.